I just closed my Bandcamp account, and no, it's nothing that Bandcamp did or didn't do. I'll tell you why. For years, the script for independent artists like me has been the same. Bandcamp, it's your home, it's your ethical choice, it's the artist's first platform, the digital haven, built by musicians for musicians. But what if I told you that a growing number of veteran musicians that might not be the whole story anymore? And my research has shown that some of them are quietly moving their works to a place where you'd least expect it. Amazon. That's right. And today I'm breaking down why this so-called evil empire is becoming a surprising refuge for a lot of senior artists and what they know that you might not. This is Henry Clark of Senior Musicians Unite, where I show tips, tricks, and industry info to help us seniors navigate this complicated and ever-changing music industry of today. And yes, I did some research, and I found a lot of senior musicians are leveraging Amazon over Bandcamp. And it's not about personal taste. It's a strategic move driven by huge shifts in the music industry and evolving as artists get older. And more important, the older musicians' listener base gets older. The conversation around Bandcamp and its current priorities has left many artists worrying about that platform's future. Now, for older artists, this has created the perfect opening for a titan, like Amazon, to come barreling in, right, to offer a compelling alternative. And I'm not talking about who pays a higher percentage now, because that's always gonna be Bandcamp. But I'm talking about a fundamental difference in philosophy and accessibility and audience. And the accessibility divide is really important because that's the key. And I mean that in two ways: for the listener and for the artist. So I'm going to start with the listener, because for senior musicians, Amazon has poured enormous research into making its ecosystem accessible for people with visual or hearing or mobility challenges. Features like Voice View Screen Reader, which reads on-screen text aloud. It's built into their devices. They have Dialogue Boost on Prime Video, which uses AI to make conversations clearer over background noise, a feature that shows a deep understanding of hearing challenges. And for those with hearing aids, Amazon's Fire TV supports audio streaming for hearing aids, sending TV audio directly to a user's device. Compare that with Bandcamp. Beautifully designed, digitally native, but it just doesn't have that deep accessibility architecture of the Amazon ecosystem. And the game changer, of course, is Alexa. Alexa, play Henry Clark, Just Be You on Amazon Music.
Just Be You and similar songs on Amazon Music.
And there you have it. For the older artists to just say, hey Alexa, play Henry Clark, Just Be You for me, right? Or what album or whatever. They don't have to mess with a screen. That's huge. It definitely removes barriers and it makes music an effortless part of life. So for senior artists like me, like us, whose fans might be struggling with deteriorating eyesight or arthritis, voice command is infinitely more powerful than a link in any bio on a computer screen. And by the way, Amazon integrated with Echo devices like Fire TV and tablets. It created this closed loop system that is incredibly easy for even a less tech savvy audience like we tend to have to navigate than on Bandcamp as a web and app platform. Bandcamp just can't compete with that level of integration. It just can't do it. The other thing is that the user artist experience, right? It's just pure set and forget it. Now, for a hungry young artist, the hands-on DIY vibe of Bandcamp, that's huge. That's a plus. They can build a custom page. They can bundle their merch. They can talk to fans. It's a platform for building a community from the ground up. But for a older musician, a senior musician, we have different priorities. We're not trying to build a new community from scratch. We want to serve the ones we already have, and ideally, we want to generate some passive income from our work, especially in our retirement years, right? And that could even be a backlog of albums. The idea of manually uploading to Bandcamp, pricing and managing requires constant engagement, and it can feel like a full-time job. And that's one of the primary reasons why I left. It was a full-time job. I just didn't have the motivation to do that anymore. I didn't have the motivation to sit there and upload all of my music to Bandcamp with my distributor, which is TuneCore in this case. They would put it everywhere anyway, you know. And to be honest with you, that's where it shines at, because it's the distributors that offer a massive advantage. You know, again, the companies like DistroKid, like CD Baby, like TuneCore, they automatically upload your tracks to Amazon, and it's purely set and forget it. So that model is incredibly appealing. I didn't have to do anything. Again, whereas, like I said, in Bandcamp, I had to load out every track and upload it. So that made a huge difference, right? And there's simple administration. You know, Bandcamp, direct payment model it's refreshing, man, and it really is transparent. They're not hiding anything. But the distributors that feed it to Amazon can handle complex things like royalty splits and advances. And a huge perk for more seasoned acts, right, is how complicated ownership rights can be. And the goal for every veteran artist isn't to spend their days, you know, tweaking their digital storefront. It's to make sure that the music is easily available to the widest audience with the least amount of ongoing work for their specified need. And in this case, the Amazon pipeline is the path of least resistance. Now, full disclosure here, guys. Nope, didn't do that well on Bandcamp, but I also didn't put a lot of stuff up there. But on Amazon and Apple Music also, I look at some of my royalty statements, and I can see that people have purchased some of my stuff, and I didn't even know until I saw the statement, because I didn't even push those from an advertising perspective. I didn't even push that. It just goes to show you. And I realized that monetization between the two platforms, that's a heated debate all the time. Because for years, the core argument for Bandcamp is that it's just an awesome revenue model. And let's be honest, it is. It really is. Bandcamp Fridays, for example, you know, the artists get 100% of that revenue. And on any other day, they take home, say, around 82% of digital sales. And they can name their own price also. They can set the price of what they want to sell it for. So, yes, definitely a model built for direct fan support. And for a certain kind of artist, it's a lifeline. But that model depends on your fans knowing about Bandcamp and going to the site and consciously deciding to buy your music. That's an active process. And I actually had data that showed that the majority of the people who listen to music on Bandcamp are actually other artists. You know, and I don't mean to be facetious about that, you know, or flippant about that. But again, I can go and I can ask my friends. I would say my friends that are over 40. And they've heard of Amazon, they've heard of YouTube, they've heard of iTunes. None of them have even heard of Bandcamp. So what are the odds of them going to Bandcamp and purchasing my music? Nil. They just ain't going to do it, you know. It doesn't matter what the track sounds like. They're just not going to do it. So, again, the active process, whereas Amazon, it operates on a completely different scale and philosophy. And it does compete with, you know, Spotify and Apple Music, and its listener base. It isn't made up of niche music industry fans. It's made up of the entire world, the entire public. And as a senior musician, that's the biggest difference, because our fan base grew up buying records in department stores and not discovering bands on niche blogs. Amazon's the modern version of the mainstream store. The audience is already there. The audience already has Prime. The audience is buying everything from books to groceries, and they're listening to the same ecosystem in a natural, frictionless way. And it's true. The per stream rate on Amazon is complicated and it's kind of murky, but the sheer volume can easily outpace the high margin, low volume on Bandcamp. In other words, like, it's the difference between running a cool boutique shop, you know, with a loyal small clientele, and having your product stocked in a global supermarket chain. Yes, the boutique has better margins per sale, but the supermarket offers unmatched reach. And it's passive reach. Being discovered by a casual listener through an Amazon curated playlist can introduce your work to a whole new generation that would never have found you on Bandcamp because they would never go there. Yeah, it's not a one size fits all. What's friendly to a 22-year-old trying to build a core following is completely different from what's friendly to a 50 plus year old, trying to manage a legacy, if you want to call it that. For emerging artists, friendly means direct communication, direct connection, high value individual sales, and it also means a platform that champions the underdog and builds a real bond between the creator and the fan. And that is Bandcamp without a doubt. They absolutely excel at that. They are the undisputed champion. But for senior musicians, artist friendly can mean something else entirely. It can mean, is this platform easy for my fans to use without having them call the grandkids for tech support? Can I upload my entire catalog in one go without a month of administration headaches? And maybe most importantly, does this music platform put my music where listeners already are creating a shot at passive long-term income without me having to promote it constantly? Again, I have TuneCore and DistroKid upload my music to Amazon, and I can go in and I can pitch it to curators, and it is so easy to do that. So the supposedly soullessness of Amazon's huge algorithm-driven ecosystem becomes a feature and not a bug. And for me personally, I'm relieved because then I don't have to get into that daily social media grind. I'm sorry. I don't have time to post every day. I don't have time to tell everybody what I'm doing. And I just don't have time for that. The integration with the familiar retail giant makes it the most logical place, for less technical artists to find them. So the evil empire in this specific case offers a simple, and powerful, accessible solution. Now, I'm not saying Bandcamp is dead, because it's not for countless musicians. It is still the most empowering and ethical platform out there. But the music industry, it's not a monolith, and neither are the artists. It's designed for a significant demographic of senior musicians. Our priorities, have shifted from building a community to managing our portfolio. And all we need for accessibility for our audience, simple workflows, and the massive passive reach of a mainstream marketplace. And while it may be an uncomfortable truth for indie purists, Amazon Music is making a compelling case for veteran artists, not by being more ethical, no, by being more practical. Its deep investment and accessibility is a seamless place in the daily lives of older artists. And it's simple. Scalable distribution makes it the unexpected champion for artists who have already put in the work and are just looking for the easiest way to get their music played. If you need more data on how seniors stream, by percentage wise, check out this video I have here where I did research that shows that senior musicians, they're just not big on streaming and they're not going to go to different sites. But anyway, check the video out and I hope you enjoy it.